Neil from Essex here with today's 3-Minute Thursday. Today's short conversation is going to be on a topic that's been really interesting to me, actually. We've done a video or two now on John Deere's 303 hydraulic oil and some of the lawsuits that have been happening out there, suing companies because 303 is simply not an appropriate product for any modern piece of equipment anymore. I'm going to give you a quick brush up on what 303 is and update you on some of the latest developments on these lawsuits that I have found really interesting. John Deere's 303 hydraulic oil is an oil mix that is 57 years old. It has been obsolete now for over 43 years. There is no modern equipment that 303 is appropriate in, and any oil that's been developed in the years since is a superior oil for your tractor in pretty much every way. Yet when you walk into a number of the chain stores that are out there, you're gonna find 5-gallon pails of 303 floating around out there. And some of the retailers of this hydraulic oil have been the target of lawsuits here over about the last 2 years or so. And the retailers have been losing simply because they're selling an oil that's not really appropriate in any kind of modern equipment. Now, the reason why they sell and promote that oil is because of its cost. It's a very simple formulation, can be sold really, really cheaply. It's gonna be that kind of stuff that you walk out of the store with a 5-gallon pail for about 35 bucks. And it often ends up in older equipment like this. Now, in some cases, you might own that old machine, and 303 is actually an appropriate oil for it. But more often than not, that oil was being used in machines that it just wasn't the right application for, leading to premature wear and damage of that equipment. Now, that's kind of the backstory on 303, but what's been happening here lately has been interesting to me. So when you're driving into price points like that, when you're walking out of there with a bucket of oil that costs that little, one has to wonder, how are they managing that? Another lawsuit here has just been settled here where the defendant, in this case Smitty's, whoever they are, used transformer oil, line wash oil, and other waste oil products in order to manufacture 303. They were actually draining the oil out of electrical transformers, collecting and buying up all of this waste oil, taking the oils that are used to purge the lines in the refineries at the end of a production cycle and remixing that and bottling it into 303. So what was in that pail was filled with impurities and additives that were completely not following the specification of what 303 was actually supposed to be. Now, if you don't know anything about hydraulic oil specifications, they're very different than engine oil specifications. Engine oils are mixed to some very defined properties of exactly what they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to perform, what kinds of additives are supposed to be in them. Hydraulic oils, though, are completely different. There's very few actual industry specifications for what hydraulic oils are supposed to be. I cringe every time I spin around a bucket and on the back of the bucket see a chart of all of the things that this oil is supposed to be compatible with. You need to know that everything that's on that chart is simply the opinion of the company that manufactured that bucket of oil, that it should be okay, and really has very little scientific basis whatsoever. I know enough about some of the oils on the back of those buckets to see times when completely different base oils are listed on some of those different products. There's, a rack of about half a dozen different base oils that are used in these products, and oftentimes they're not even getting the base oil correct when they're making those comparisons, much less even beginning to dive into the additive packages that make those oils perform in certain ways. Now, you certainly can look and say, I'm a guy who sells OEM oils and I have a reason to do that, and I'll accept that. Also, I'm always going to want to point out, though, that you take a look at those OEM filters and oils and that kind of stuff and really benchmark their price against quality oils that are out there or quality filters that are out there. These OEM companies are aware that you're out there price shopping these commodity consumable items, and for the most part, I find that they're actually quite cost competitive with good quality products from other companies. So if you compare a good quality oil against an OEM oil, you're going to find that they're within 10% of each other more than likely. And the same holds true for filters as well. You can go price your Napa Golds and that kind of stuff and look at how they price out against an OEM engine oil filter, and you're going to find that they're going to price pretty much the same. And most of the time that OEM filter, if you break it open, is a much better product on the inside. If you'd like to see some of that, I've done those videos in the past cutting those filters apart and showing those differences. Another thing that's worth kind of keeping in the back of your mind here, if you go back to a video that we did with Hydroforce here a couple of months ago, towards the end of one of those videos, and I bet most of you never quite got there was a time that we took walking through their engineering lab. Now, this is a company that manufactures hydraulic manifolds and valves and stuff that are part of these hydraulic circuits where these fluids are running through. And this company who builds these industrial Legos for your machinery actually had a test rack in their engineering lab that's used to go through and test what happens when you run oil like this through their products. And what their testing shows is if you look at the life cycle of a component that's in your machine, it looks a lot like a bathtub, right? Where the beginning of the couple years of that machine, you might see some early failures on as a piece of equipment or hydraulic valve first starts to break in, but then that thing tends to last a good long time after that. And as that machine starts to age and maybe you don't change the oil quite as often, or you start running, the improper oils and stuff through it, you get this bathtub curve up on the other side of additional failures that might be caused by wear, but also are caused by a lack of maintenance. It's for that reason I sometimes am confused by the people who are out there and look and say, I've got an old tractor like these and I'm, don't really care so much about it anymore, and I don't want to spend the money on the good consumables and stuff for it because I don't want to keep pouring the money back into that piece of equipment. But we're going to sit here and tell you that practice often leads to failures down the road that might be more expensive or might ultimately cause you to put that machine out to pasture at the end of its life, maybe earlier than what you need to. So consider that there's a good reason in order to put good quality fluids, good quality filters on your equipment. It's going to extend their lifetime. So if we can help you with any of those parts for your machinery, or if you're shopping for a piece of equipment that we can help with, give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at Messick's.com.